Minister of Planning, Investment and Economic Development of Somalia. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Mr. Alex Sharma, the President of COP26, Excellencies, Ministers and Heads of Delegations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Somalia would like to congratulate Mr. Alex Sharma for being elected as the President of COP26 and commend the good work of the outgoing COP25 President, the Minister of Environment of Chile. We thank the governments of the United Kingdom and Italy for hosting COP26 despite the challenges that COVID-19 pandemic has imposed. We also register our sincere appreciation for the warm welcome and excellent hospitality of the government of the UK and the people of Glasgow. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Somalia is a country that lies at the tip of the Horn of Africa, and despite historically having been afflicted by long periods of conflict and insecurity, we have made great strides and progress towards peace, security, and sustainable development. However, as we continue on the path to recovery from decades of conflict, underdevelopment, and instability, the twin effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change has set many of our efforts back. We have come to COP26 to seek solidarity to address the existential threat of climate change and to contribute to the global efforts to counter them. For us, the reality of the climate emergency has become a constant feature in our daily lives. With frequent droughts and devastating floods that displace millions, destroy livelihoods, perpetuate poverty, and cause tragic losses of human lives and livestock. Even worse for us, the climate crisis directly contributes to the protracted conflict dynamics and aggravates resource use competition, eroding communal resilience, and exposing youth to exploitation by extremist groups. Around 2.6 million Somalis are presently internally displaced in over 2,000 camps across the country. Another estimated 1 million are refugees in neighboring countries. Many others are constantly on the move, risking their lives in dangerous migration routes to escape not from the assumed insecurity, but rather the desperation is exacerbated by climate change impacts. As the magnitude of climate change impacts increase, the vulnerable people of Somalia and other least developed countries and the conflict-affected countries face ever-deepening challenges. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as long as emissions continue to rise, our vulnerabilities will continue to increase, and our people will get no opportunity to recover before the next emergency arises. The recently released NDC synthesis report and IPCC assessment all warn that we are off track and even on a disastrous trajectory of 2.7 degrees warming. That's why we call on the developed countries and countries emitting the most to listen to science and do their part to save the world, deliver on their financial pledges, and allow countries like Somalia a fair chance at adaptation and just transition. We believe it is possible, and we too are doing our bit. Through the 9th National Development Plan, we have mainstreamed climate change adaptation, resilience, and low-carbon growth. Our enhanced national determined contribution is more ambitious and focusing on massive forest restoration, sustainable agriculture, and promoting opportunities to leapfrog the energy poverty towards renewables in a manner that's based on just transition principles and social dialogue. Achieving the vision and objectives of the NDC is a government-wide effort as well as a whole-of-society undertaking, with the private sector being in the front. Somalia has also proposed the establishment of IGAD Center of Excellency on Adaptation and Environmental Protection in Somalia. The center will support the implementation of adaptation planning and climate risk in the IGAD region. Our vision for the IGAD Adaptation Center is to become a leader in adaptation matters and contribute to the attainment of the African 2063 Agenda, and implementation of adaptation goals of the Paris Agreement. It is in this regard that we emphasize the actualization of parity in matters of adaptation and mitigation as exposed in the Paris Agreement. Excellencies, the required transition and adjustments to the current and expected climate impacts need unprecedented investments and provision of and access to financial resources and other means of implementation. This implies we need scaled up and predictable funding for adaptation. Developed countries need to increase the commitment to climate finance and allocate adequate financing for adaptation in developing countries. We also particularly need a program to improve access, including by reducing unhelpful procedural complexities in the funding mechanisms of the Green Climate Fund and the Global Environment Facility, especially for the vulnerable developing countries like ours. In conclusion, Excellencies, Somalia has the longest continental coastline in Africa. The oceans and coastal zone of our country are important for our adaptation and mitigation efforts. We join others to request adequate focus and dialogue on oceans annually at the UNFCCC organism, beginning with the 56th meeting of the subsidiary body on technical and technological advice, SEBASTA. Similarly, in light of the growing reality of the linkage between climate change and security and conflict, we urge the Conference of Parties to begin consideration of the matter in subsequent meetings. Finally, yes, climate change is the greatest threat to humanity, but also, yes, acting together, we can and we must correct the inequalities, the iniquities and injustices causing climate change. The vulnerable people of Somalia and the world expecting nothing less than the ambitious COP26 to fulfill the goals of the Paris Agreement. I thank you for your kind attention.